Everyone, Stephen Lowe is here with GTM Secrets. Everything go to market, sales, marketing, rev ops, product marketing, you name it. We've probably had somebody on here talking about it. Today, I have Zach Presnall on the line. I'm looking forward to this. He is an internet marketer, which is, the space that I play in, to say the least. But excuse me, Zach, how about you give a little bit of context on yourself?
Sure. I've been doing internet marketing 20 years. I started my career at Intel. I created and sold a couple digital companies in the photography space. Most recently, I was at a publisher where I managed business to government campaigns for Fortune 100 companies.
Fun.
And it's been a ride and continues to be. I look forward to the chat.
Government contracts. I have sold into the NIH before, and it was like the worst experience in the world. God bless.
Well, it's only an 18-month conversion timeline. I mean, geez, you gotta hang in there.
Some of my clients sell into the DoD and all sorts of different agencies, and I want nothing to do with that. I hope I never sell to the government again. And it's probably going to get harder with Doge. Just throwing that out there, good or bad. Okay, so you're an internet marketer, ads, email, etc. That's awesome. Email's probably my weak link. I'm better at ads, but I want to dive into a little bit of both. So my first question is, what are some of the biggest mistakes that marketers make when it comes to email marketing, especially as the noise grows, the BS grows, you name it, it's getting harder?
Yeah, I've got maybe 5 core mistakes, but number one, I mean, just right off the top, a lot of B2B, even B2C, when you send an email, you're thinking of yourself instead of the reader. Like, okay, am I trying to sell you a product, or am I trying to educate you on something valuable? Maybe even give you content that's not even related to your product, but might be interesting to the reader. So you've heard content is king. Well, that's because content is important to the person that's digesting this information. So the more value, inspiration, trend, best practices you can give them, the better the email is going to perform. I also get a lot of ad requests where an advertiser will say, I want to promote this thing for this day. And that's very short-sighted. It's thinking of a single email rather than a series, like a whole go-to-market strategy or a whole annual campaign. So if you're trying to do something that's a one-shot, like think bigger, broader.
I think that's especially prevalent on the e-com side. And going back to your initial thought, I like the analogy of be Yoda, not Luke Skywalker. You're not the hero in the journey. Help them be the hero. Stop making it about yourself.
True.
Cheesy as all hell, but it's one of my favorite analogies.
And as you're sending multiple emails, as you get broader with your strategy, think how you can get more niche with your targeting. So I often see, let's just send to more people. Let's blast as much as we can, because if we can get an extra couple sales out of it, it's worth it. But I would say sending to the fewest possible with the highest conversion. You want to keep your list clean. If somebody globally unsubscribes, you're never going to be able to send to them again. Canned spam is only getting more restrictive. So figure out the best people to send to, send a message that's of interest to them, and try and fit your sales material into our existing opt-in messages. Like if you've got a newsletter, just include your information in that newsletter rather than trying to send something new that's just sales focused, non-opt-in. They didn't ask for that. They're likely going to opt out. Yep. And then last thing would be just spend a lot of time on the subject line. That's the number one thing people are going to look at. That's going to consider all the engagement, whether they open, whether they click. So put more time up front thinking, okay, what's the message to get them to engage with this? Focus on that subject line.
One of the best concepts that I've used for open rates, and you may really like this or really disagree, but is short, vague, and ambiguous. And then where you're really catching them is in the first line or two of your email. You have other people who put like 10 words and emojis in their subject lines. Like what's your style?
Well, we've done at the last company I worked at, we did a lot of testing. Things like the exact time you're sending it at, the length that we dumped everything out of HubSpot into this Excel sheet and analyzed the length. Like, okay, is a longer subject line better than a shorter subject line? Almost every test we did had a very minimal effect on whether or not people read it. So I was finding that the audience that we had a capacity, like a higher limit of what they would engage with. And however you tried to craft it didn't matter too much. So you will find that's like, okay, personalization might help, emojis might help. I mean, you definitely don't want to go overboard. The best thing you could do is test and get real data. Do A/B tests, see what the results are, and then I like the iterative approach. Try out something. If it works, do more of that and do less of what doesn't work. So I'd say
Yep.
to answer your question, we didn't have a single tactic. We tried lots of different things.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, what is your favorite email tool?
I've used a lot of them, and it depends. So let's say Eloqua. Eloqua is a B2B marketing automation system, extremely robust. So you need kind of a technical management team to even figure out how to use it. I've used Mailchimp, which is very customer friendly. If you're doing B2C, you're a mid-sized business, that's great for them. HubSpot, I like them just because of the amount of information and training they have on things broader than email. They'll integrate with a lot of different systems. So I'd say before investing, because once you get hooked on one of these marketing automation tools, you're never going to leave. You really get ingrained in it. Yeah. So there's a lot of them. They're all similar. It just depends how many features you want. Do you need things like dedicated IP address to help your sender reputation, WYSIWYG editors to drag and drop, like HubSpot has, or are you going to upload HTML and it doesn't really matter which you use.
Yep.
So, and that's just some of them. I've used Acton, Marketo. They're all very similar at the enterprise level.
They are, and they are definitely more technical. We use Pardot. I'm a big Salesforce nerd.
There you go.
Before Identity Matrix, I owned a RevOps company. So I know Salesforce inside and out, but if you don't, HubSpot tends to be the easiest at the mid-market enterprise level. It's expensive as all hell. They have jacked up their prices.
Yes.
So the next thing that I want to ask about is being an internet marketer. Let's throw SEO out the window because so where I'm going is generative AI. Everyone knows that there's a billion platforms now that can write a blog for you, including just ChatGPT itself, right? I think that's been done over and over. And I'm not saying don't do it, but we all know that that's a good use case. When it comes to whether it's advertising or email, how do you see generative AI changing email and or ads?
Yeah, well, we're even beyond SEO now and into AIO and GEO, which are basically, in a nutshell, optimizing beyond the Google first page of search results, which now it's kind of all over the place. There's far fewer blue links. So there's no like top 10, here's page 1 of results anymore. It's all kinds of different content. So you're going to have to use optimization tactics across many different types of media. AI can help assess what that's going to be. So let's say you had a webinar that you made and you're trying to get leads out of that webinar. You have to think far beyond that webinar. I mean, not only are you optimizing that webinar page for SEO, but how do you turn that into a YouTube short and a YouTube video and a TikTok video and a news article with video embedded in it and a checklist PDF download? There's so many different things you can use to use AI to create segmented pieces that all have to do with that original piece of content. So it's going broad, it's slicing up your key evergreen content to show in more places. And AI does a great job of that. I mean, not only can you use AI to come up with alternate headlines and, like you said, like write the page for you essentially, but things like transcripts from video to turn it into audio, like Google Learning Management. You can make a podcast with 2 people talking about your piece of content. It's really incredible. You can pull out data points to make social media images out of what you said in the video, for example. I'm really excited. I haven't used it yet, but Pencil seems to be one of the leading platforms for just creating a creative ad from scratch for you. So, remember the days not too long ago where you had to go to a designer or pull up Canva and try and piece something together yourself. Now there's systems that will just make your ads for you.
I'm not affiliated, but we use Riverside for these podcasts, right? Within 3 buttons, I can correct any pauses like that I just said. That'll get nixed out. It's pretty awesome. And then they create magic clips in like 30 seconds, minute, whatever it is. Then we take the transcript, we upload it to Jasper and turn these into a blog. I think those are all fantastic ways of using it. And then I am curious. So previously, the general theme or general consensus was that if you're using third-party tools to post on social, it's not going to get as many organic views or impressions as just doing it right on Meta or LinkedIn, et cetera. And same thing for ads. The ads were a little bit more expensive. There are so many AI ad managers now. Have you seen those work well? Have you seen that it costs more still? What's your thought there?
I haven't experienced that firsthand. I don't know. I would say they're going to catch up to whatever the market dictates. So if more people are doing that and demanding a lower CPM from uploaded ads, that's going to happen. I will say that the built-in tools are becoming more robust. So if you want to create your whole ad right inside Instagram, they're giving you more capability to do that, like add text, add captions to YouTube Shorts. And there's all these products that are now coming out to help do that, which you might not think is like, oh, I'm using AI, but that's what's happening behind the scenes. So the built-in tools are going to have systems to help you create that. And then they know you're going to try and share it beyond what, the system that you used it in. So for example, I'm pretty sure it's Instagram that allows you to now download what you made inside Instagram. Or is it might be TikTok. It's TikTok now that I think about it. So they want to be the source of your creation, but they know you won't use it if you're limited to just being in their network. So they'll let you download and post it elsewhere.
I will say the AI in Meta Business Manager is getting pretty cool. LinkedIn sucks. That ad manager, you would think Microsoft would do more with it, but I'm not a fan of LinkedIn ad manager at all. And I use it every day.
There was a time when I didn't trust Facebook to do the optimizations for me and choose the networks, for example. That's changing now.
I like the image enhancement AI that is used. Anytime you create an ad, it's almost irritating. Here are 42 different enhancements we can make, but it's pretty cool overall.
I have, speaking of 42, I have seen like the phrase A/B testing is now becoming like A to Z testing because you can do so many iterations.
Pretty much. So let's think about it this way. When you're launching a new product and you're truly launching a new go-to-market strategy, how do you prioritize your marketing initiatives? What % are you going to put into paid or organic or whatever the case is? How do you even come up with a strategy other than throw crap at the wall and hope something sticks?
Yeah, well, one thing I see left out the most is having content creation as a part of that mix. So we're a news publisher, and people would come to us with ad campaigns and they would have nothing to promote, or they would have a single landing page that's vague and not messaged to the government audience. And so we constantly needed to take a step back and say, well, what content do you have or can we create for you? And a percentage of that budget would be content. The other thing I've seen is with the tech crunch that's happened in the last year or so, as companies do layoffs and budgets are getting more strict, advertisers needed to show ROI, which is difficult to do with banners and newsletters or any sort of awareness campaigns. So we were seeing shift go from digital into leads. So as publishers, we're trying to group together demand gen with awareness campaigns into packages so that it all kind of felt the same to the people buying it. So what we were suggesting was something like 25% of your budget in content, 50% in demand gen or leads, 50% or 15% search and social and 10% programmatic or banners. So it's much heavier weighted towards the creation of the material and bottom of funnel, getting registrations for that material, and less so, more just like light air cover that's constantly ongoing for the awareness factors. Content and leads always have value. So if you're an ad manager and you need to show results, if you're getting revenue from that, then you're going to get more money to spend. So that's where the leads came into play.
I think as attribution models get better and better, I mean, that's one of the things that my own startup's tackling. But I think as attribution models get better and better, executives will start to lay off the how many leads did it generate, because you can backtrack it all the way to the beginning. But I think we're still a ways out from that. I totally agree with this sentiment that you were just talking about.
Yeah,
So,
one of my favorite case studies is REI, the outdoor equipment company, had spent $1 million in one day on Google paid search, one day. And then they stopped. And then they assessed the results. Like, okay, how did that work? And they didn't see a lot of uptick, not a lot of sales, not a lot of
no
site
kidding.
visits. Then a week later, the organic search spiked because people remember seeing the name. Maybe they looked briefly, didn't get anything, just saved it or whatever. They thought about it. So when they needed something, they remembered REI and went to it. And so if you're not tracking that attribution as, okay, a new organic visit came because of this paid ad a week ago, you would think the $1 million was wasted, which
Yep.
it wasn't. But that's very hard to connect the dots.
I didn't know that, but I think that's a perfect example. That's very interesting. I don't know who the hell thought $1 million in one day would just solve all problems.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. If that were the case, Fortune companies wouldn't spend so much on TV and
Right.
billboards and all that crap, right?
Right. So, I mean, the key is you have to do a lot of things and do them consistently in B2B space where the buying cycle is really long, especially in government, which I'm familiar. You're going to lose track of it over 6, 12, 18 months. So that does make it a little bit difficult.
Yep. So how do you feel specifically on the B2B side? I think it's only really relevant on the B2B side. How do you feel about marketing signals, intent, all those fun terms people want to throw around? What's your thought on them?
I'd say the easiest way to put it is that when you're looking at the data, a single number is less important than a percentage. So if you're looking at impressions, clicks, likes, shares, those are numbers. You want something that's a percentage: open rate, click-through rate, engagement rate, conversion rate. If you have Google Shorts, what percent was watched? What's the repeat rate at which they watch the video more than once? What percent of videos did they watch of yours? So anything with a percentage is going to be more valuable because a single number could be high or low. Without a benchmark to compare it to, you don't know if that's good or not. If I said you got 100 likes on a post, is that a lot or a little? So I was
Yeah.
always finding in advertiser metrics reports, I'd have to tell them if this was good. Okay, you got this number, you got this percentage. That is good because it exceeded benchmarks or because conversion was high, and that's your ultimate goal. And then the biggest number of all, of course, is return on ad spend. You could have a lot of awareness and great engagement, but if those people aren't buying, then you don't want them. I had a marketing team that was creating hundreds of leads on one of our products and getting 0 sales, which ended up being a huge waste of time for the sales team to follow up with these people, which really were not the right segment of targeting. So what return are you getting on the investment? And that goes down to conversion percentages, sales percentages.
I think there's still way too many marketers that care about, cost per lead alone. Yeah, it's a good indicator, sure, but leads are not created equal. They never have been, never will be. I think too many marketers, and this will go into my next question, too many marketers are siloed off from sales. So they look at it, you get the typical sales says marketing's giving them crap leads. Marketing is saying that they just can't close, et cetera, right? So that goes into my next question. everyone talks about sales and marketing alignment. My personal preference is that you have a CRO that makes sure that there's one revenue generating arm. But in your experience, how do you align sales and marketing properly?
Sales will demand a lot out of marketing, and unless marketing has a plan and a roadmap, they're going to be reacting to short-term sales requests. I need to meet this quota this month. I need to sell this thing today. I need to fill this pipeline today. And now, like the first question, you're focused on, okay, what's one activity, what's one campaign I can do today to drive that, rather than a full plan with a funnel and selecting the key cut. So having that system in place will calm sales significantly and have them build trust in the marketing team that they're, doing the right path. Having a repeatable system, if you have a plan, you can build something that can be done every quarter or every year, so you don't have to spend all this time reinventing it. You need to have tags, tracking tags on everything so that you can attribute and say, yeah, all of this stuff came from marketing. So it's really about marketing being organized with dashboards the sales can see, roadmaps the sales can see, and then sales is going to love marketing because they see, oh, it's all under control. All we have to do is respond to the leads you're creating for us rather than trying to advise, oh, do this for me, do this for me.
I think I was talking to a marketer, I want to say last week. They didn't know what UTMs were.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. Tracking tags on everything, but do the basics, like use a freaking UTM, right? It's the
Right.
easiest tracking ever. Although Apple, I notice Apple is starting to get rid of some UTM parameters. If there's any identifiable info, they
Wow.
scrub it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, that makes sense. Now, how do you feel? So we talked a little bit about intent, right? You have metrics like, okay, if they're liking and interacting with my posts and engaging with my emails, etc., that's all great. They're showing a little bit of intent. Do you have any experience with what I'll use the term as intent signals? Like, demand-based and Sixth Sense will say, hey, this company is looking for XYZ solution. Or some people, and this one boggles my mind, if somebody changed a job, somehow that's an intent signal, which I think is bullshit. But do you have any experience with more of the B2B intent signals from like a Sixth Sense, demand-based? I mean, there's a billion of them now.
Yeah, at the highest level, account-based marketing is one of the biggest things in the government space because you're not trying to sell to one person, you're selling
Right.
to an agency. And so instead of looking at a single lead, or let's be even more broad, a single click or a single engagement from one person, look at all the activity that account has done with you. So we would see one person watches a webinar, they would pass it along to others. So more people from the organization would watch the webinar, and then they would start downloading papers on that technology or competitors' technologies in the space. That's an intent signal saying there's a project happening and that agency is getting ready to buy something. So looking at it from an account basis rather than an individual basis, and that's where some of these tools can help highlight that, or even AI. You dump all your metrics into an assessment system and say, what highlights are you seeing? What accounts are hot? In the government space, you could see when pre-RFPs are happening or RFPs. So attaching what's actually happening in market, like the buying signals back to the accounts or users who have engaged with your things, and then coming up with those accounts to target. So now I can do an ad campaign just for them, especially on big dollar buys. It's worth doing instead of focusing on your own market where you might sell to anybody. Let's just go all in and do a door opener campaign to that company. Let's offer them personal training. We'll fly out there and educate them on the subject. So just looking broader than the one action, like look holistically and aggregate at what's happening.
Makes sense. I do think government is probably more appropriate for, I'll give the example of like I'm making it up. The NIH is looking for an ERP, right? Because you're talking about such a ridiculously long sales cycle. I think that too many small SaaS companies selling a couple $100, gimmicks or widgets, whatever you want to say, with a 1 to 3 month sales cycle are getting sold on this idea of intent. But the way that intent indicators work, by the time intent is even picked up, they found a solution. So my philosophy, and I sound like a broken record for subscribers, my philosophy is intent only works if you have a 6 month or longer sales cycle. Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that?
That sounds legitimate. Like take car buying, for example. When you show up at the place to buy a car, you're telling them exactly what you want and how much you're going to pay for it. The decision's already made by the time you get there. So that's where awareness campaigns are going to help, especially across multiple channels. If I've seen you on TikTok and YouTube and have your email newsletter and seeing you in search, all those things are helping factor into that. I saw an interesting thing where geofencing was being done where I can target ads to a specific IP range. And so consider in your case, let's say somebody is making a buying purchase. And so you blanket the house or the office with those ads. And now the kids are seeing ads for the car that, they have no intent to buy, but it's really going all in on, I want a message to these people in advance.
The creepiest thing that I have seen, and by the way, I run a creepy data company, right? Like catching people early in the buying cycle by identifying people on your site. Something that even tops that is there's I won't name drop, but there's a company where they will help you identify the IPs or track the IPs and the devices in company headquarters at Microsoft, let's say. They will then pick up the new IP address from that device ID when they go home.
Wow.
And then they would send smart TV ads on Hulu and whatnot directly to them at home. That's even a little creepy for me. It may work, but I don't know if it works or not, but that tops it even for me. And that says something because I'm pretty open to everything. That's very interesting. I'll go back. I love your anecdote about REI. I think this is really valuable. My very last question for you, put yourself in the shoes of a B2B marketer today. What are some of your favorite ad channels? Is it programmatic, search, LinkedIn? What's the number one for driving leads?
Find a niche publication that you can advertise with that's targeting your audience specifically, or go back to the ABM model if you have a longer cycle and do email campaigns just to that segment. I found in the B2B space, it's pretty hard to build accurate demographics because it's not like somebody says, on Facebook, oh, I like business. And so now I'm in your market. It could be a little more difficult to find the right segment. But if you can find where those people hang out, like in the case of REI, if they're on outdoor camping sites, then how can you advertise or do a direct to email campaign? Or maybe in Facebook or LinkedIn, target followers of those pages. So it's really about how can you target that audience wherever that is. It doesn't really matter if it's LinkedIn or TikTok or direct email or site banners, but it's showing to that audience. And programmatic, I guess, is maybe the way to do that the most broadly across a broad network.
The one that boggles my mind, and it must work because they put a ridiculous amount of money in it, is I get data rails, if you're familiar with them, so FP&A software, on TikTok, all day, every day. It doesn't stop. The fact that they're targeting, business, quote unquote, business leaders on TikTok is just nuts to me. But again, obviously it works.
Right.
So I agree with your point. It depends on the persona, what you're doing, etc. Zach, any last thoughts, comments, anything at all for the audience?
I don't think so. It was great talking to you. I love, marketing discussion, go-to-market strategy discussion. Look forward to your future guests as well.
Absolutely. I know you're going to say LinkedIn, but where's the best place for people to connect?
LinkedIn. You can
You
find
and
me by my
everyone.
name. Yes.
I had one individual say Instagram that caught me off guard, but this is like, I don't know, episode 33, 35, something like that. And except one, everyone said LinkedIn. Zach, really good having you on. Everyone, I encourage you go connect with Zach Presnall on LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.